You've heard of gloss, matte, and color PPF, but have you heard of printed PPF? Before I get into talking about printed PPF, we kind of have to go back just a little bit. So here I actually have just normal PPF, and it basically is a clear polyurethane TPU-based film that went on top of NASCAR cars, and then it went to exotics, and then now your Teslas and your consumer vehicles, where it was designed to protect the vehicle. The key word there is to protect the vehicle. It was never about aesthetics. It was never about changing the look until matte PPF came. And matte PPF was a little bit different because it actually, they call it stealth, some they call it satin. They're all kind of similar, but they basically flatten the paint. So when you flatten the paint, instead of a gloss finish, you're giving it a little bit muted look. And that's really, got really popular, especially in the Tesla space. But here we are now. I think in the last 5 years, there's been so many color PPF companies that basically offer all sorts of colors, and it's advancing really, really quickly. Which gets us to the point that's really important to note, because when that all happened and it just boomed, and then the PPF industry kind of grew all from the DIY perspective to the shop perspective, all around the industry just grew significantly. That's when it really pushed the innovation to a lot, right? So one thing about new modern PPF is that paint protection film usually has a pretty hard top coat as well. So typically it gives it the hydrophobic layer. That's really good when you talk about the film performance, because when it has the hydrophobic properties, you got bird poop, bug guts, things that are somewhat liquid will actually come off a lot easier because it has that top layer. That's really good. But when we talk about printed PPF, it's not really quite good. So I think the question here is, can you just print on normal PPF, and does that work? Well, you can. Is it good? No. Right? So I want to explain, like this one I'm holding, if you look closely, you can see a little bit of thing. This is a very earlier prototype when we're just testing. We just are like, oh, you know what, let's just try it. And you can see, look at this, you can see the droplets. I do use an eco-solvent printer. We use an Epson, mostly in our warehouse. And it doesn't really hold. And then actually, if it hasn't been that much time, I can literally smear it. It'll come right off because of the hydrophobic properties. On top of that, if the ink sits on top of the PPF, how is weather going to impact that? How is the rain going to impact it? How is mud and other things that hit it going to impact it? Well, it's going to impact it pretty well, in the sense that it's just going to erase the ink eventually over time. It'll fade. So what you have to do, what we learned that we have to do, is first of all, you can't just get any PPF. It has to be a certain type of PPF. So we worked with a manufacturer in China that actually was able to give us a substrate that we were able to print on and not have that layer on top, so it actually embeds with our eco-solvent or UV. So there's two types of printers that is really, really common in the vinyl industry. Solvent is one. We use an eco-solvent. There's also UV, which we also use sometimes. It's a UV, basically puts droplets of ink, and then it cures it with light, with ultraviolet, which is super cool. Solvent's a little bit more traditional, but it's an eco-solvent, but it takes about 6 hours, ours in particular, to gas out, and they really embed. Both of them though, you'll have to put another layer, a clear layer, we call it a laminate, on top of it to protect it from UV and all sorts of things. So then another thing that we tried is, we can't show you the full design right here, but I'll show you a little bit right over here. You can actually print also uncolored PPF, and somewhat works, but here's the other problem. Color PPF also has a hydrophobic layer, so over time it's just not going to last. You could somewhat laminate it, but it's just not, it wasn't designed to be printed on, right? So when it's not designed to be printed on, then it doesn't really quite work. So we're going to install this printed one, and you'll notice how it's a little light on the ink, but it just didn't feel that vibrant because we don't have it. So we actually have new material. We used up the testing stuff, so I actually don't have the special printable PPF in stock right now, but I have a bunch coming right now, and we're going to do a second part video about this journey. And eventually, we might launch it, we might not. We like doing this video. We want to hear your feedback too and just see what you guys think. But I really think this is just going to be another tool and an asset for wrap installers. But then also, I think for the DIYers, I think it could be really useful, because I think a lot of times when they do DIY and they're like, I don't know, like they're doing a rocker and it's PPF and it's clear, they're doing it in the sense of, I want to protect that area. But what if we printed a really cool graphic in that rocker? I mean, they kind of kill two birds with one stone. And I think more than ever, as Teslas become way more popular, there's just so many out there now, people are always looking for ways to make it stand out a little bit different from that guy next to you. So I think this is going to be a big part eventually. We kind of did a whole series about dry PPF. That's kind of like same thing. There's just so many cool things coming out, dry PPF, printed PPF, all sorts of things. So we're going to go ahead and grab this. Don't show yet. And we're going to reveal it. Oh, you can kind of see that. But we are going to install this, and we're going to walk through some of the challenges that you'll have. So, all right, there you go. I'm just kidding. So we got Desta over here. We started a new company. It's called PPF Premier Properties. Okay, so I know we're not a realtor, but I really think that I've seen a lot of our realtors that we worked with put their like face or their company right here on the door, and they end up like wrapping their car because they're in their car all the time, right? They're going and showing houses and stuff. So I think realtor business maybe, I think service-based business is going to be big, because like service-based business like plumbers or electricians, they abuse their car, right? So if they have a Tesla or a truck or something like that, I do think like if they're going to wrap it and it's not that much more expensive, why not use printable PPF? So from the ones that we tested so far, printable PPF is very, very similar in construction in terms of the layering of how it works. And what that means is that it's going to be very, very similar in terms of installation. This is what happens. I wanted to show you if you print using eco solvent, like it just doesn't really hold. And then this has been a day, but look, I can scratch it and it starts to kind of dissipate a little bit, right? So that's kind of what I mean by the hydro. It's kind of cool though, right? So I might need a really quick hand to just kind of hold this, okay? But it is still kind of cool that we are able to do that. All right, so I got this, and I know you're looking at it and going, look, the ink's already coming off. We know. This is kind of what we wanted to show as well, is like, you have to laminate it for this very reason. We did this all on purpose, guys. Now, I mean, we have to try it, right? Like, but the hydrophobic and like the combination of the solvent just doesn't really work. You can see we use a pattern for our DIY kit. This is the one that doesn't go all the way around the edges. We just kind of wanted to make this really, really simple for this particular demo. So for those of you who don't know, Desta is our support manager. So if you guys need help, she'll be taking care of you guys and making sure you guys are good. And if you need houses, you can also get it at this website right here, right? Just kidding. But you can see right now, as I'm already kind of squeegeeing this out, some of the ink is kind of disintegrating a little bit, and you can kind of see some of that right here. But that's why that laminate layer is going to be really important. But this is, to me, this is really interesting because traditionally, like, printing is a lot of work. We do a lot of design work sometimes. Like, we're working on a project right now, and it's just so much work. A lot of times it starts with the client, and they want something. They're spending so much time and money. And sometimes it almost feels like, man, they're spending all this time, money for design. It's like, and this is gonna last like 3 years. Like, especially if it's like a utility vehicle, it's not gonna last that long. So what if they use something like PPF, which will last like, I don't know, it depends on the manufacturer, right? But it's like, typically PPF is like 7 to 10 years, right? This is way more durable. But this is kind of how it'll install. I mean, if you look at this, it's nothing different than a traditional PPF. And then you can kind of just do the same thing over here. Look at that. Look at all this right here that's happening right here. Right? When you do printed too, One thing that you really want to watch out for in design is just not trying to put too much like in the, like, we definitely shouldn't have put like the QR code, but I think that's still scannable at the bottom, right at the, sorry, body line. Okay. The pantsuit is disintegrating too. All right. What do you think? Just gotta do the realtor look. I mean, look at this giant bubble I missed. I really think that there's a lot of potential in this, and that's why we're gonna go down this rabbit hole. We're gonna figure it out. We have a bunch of new material coming that is a much better layer, I mean, a substrate that we can use to print out it more accurately. Because of the hydrophobic too, the color is just not vibrant. It looks almost muted in a way, like the skin tones and then the hair and stuff like that. But it looks pretty cool. And like I said, like if you're gonna do this, you wouldn't do just one, right? And of course you won't go right to the edge, you'll have to go. But what if you were to actually do this on a clear, which I think could be a really cool potential. The only difference, guys, is you'll need a printer that can print white. And the reason being you need white is because if I printed Desto and all this graphics and on white and there's no white ink, this image is just gonna take the color of whatever the color vehicle is. So it's gonna be red over here. It looks really funny. I mean, we've done it. Don't ask why. So I think that's really the thing, but I think that makes it potentially doable. Like if you are a business and you just want to do the backside or something like that, maybe you just want partial. Desto's plumbing or whatever, or electrician, ppfelectrician.com. Whatever that is. I think this has a lot of potential. Like you don't want to use like really cheap vinyl where it'll start peeling immediately and stuff like that, because that's like kind of a representation of your brand, right? Like if you have like 30 trucks going out as an electrician or something like that, you want it to look good. So some businesses will ask us to do like a vinyl wrap and they'll do their branding and all that, and then we'll PPF it on top. This just removed all that process. You literally just do it one time. It's easy. We can align it really easily. So again, I go back to the commercial space. I think there's a lot more potential there rather than the consumer space. I could be wrong again, right? So you tell us what you think. We're gonna go ahead and rip this off because it looks cool, but it's not quite ready. But, okay, that came off a little too easy. Well, if you have any questions, let us know in the comments below. Sorry for crumpling this up, but we'll see you later.